Betsy, again, we'll appreciate your notes, and others can learn of what we've talked about. Um, the first item, the little blue truck, we're just needing to get people to be re-recorded, have the audio re-recorded. And people's lives are busy and their schedules are full, and that's proving to be a challenge to get people lined up. We will continue to work at that. The video is great. It's just the audio recording that day was it needs to be looked at again. And so Tommy Page is willing to do that, and we're just connecting folks. The bigger item is bridging the community gap. I've heard from the city of Roanoke that our permit will only be approved for a maximum group of 25. And that is in keeping with the governor's current restrictions on groups indoor or outdoor. And so that forces us into a position of deciding what we need to do with that information. It seems to me we have three choices. One is just to postpone the event and aim for, obviously, unless you do it at Christmas, there'll be no Christmas tree. So there would have to be some reimagining. So postponing the event is one option. Having an event that only involves 25 people. So our subcommittee, a few others from the wider task force, Mayor Lee we have Mayor Lee confirmed. So presumably, of course, he would be part of this. And we have an event that maybe feels more like a press conference than a community event in some way. Or three, to have a purely virtual event, or perhaps some hybrid thereof. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I know in a conversation I had with Chief Hoback, they are anticipating the COVID peak to be something like mid-January. So we don't anticipate any restrictions being changed in time to make this event possible in the way we had been planning. So what's your pleasure on this?
What I was thinking, I like a combination of option 2 and 3. Just the people who are involved can be in person and also probably live stream it through the city's Facebook page or something like that. I don't know if that's an option. That way it still can be virtual and people can, see what's going on via Facebook and just have whoever's involved in the program in person. So I guess that would be a combination of options 2 and 3, but that's just my suggestions.
Okay. Great.
We talked a little bit on, sorry.
No, go ahead. You go ahead and you could speak.
We talked a little bit on our staff with our director and a couple other people. And we kind of chose to look at the event in 2 parts, one of which we already kind of scaled down and talked about at our last meetings, but the canned foods and the collection of items. And then part 2 was the actual walk and gathering. And the opinion within our kind of small group of staff at TAP was to look at maybe postponing the gathering piece of it, but continuing to do the collection of foods and hats and gloves and whatnot to be distributed amongst the 3 neighborhood groups, and to utilize some of our youth participants to do that sorting and delivery as well. So that's another option too, if we want to kind of look at splitting it that way, and then still being able, hopefully in the spring, to do something that would be more of a all-encompassing gathering, but still to be able to serve those communities in ways that they need during the Christmas holiday.
Right. I think we would lose a lot just having 25 people. I mean, I think you lose your impact if you limit it to that.
Right.
Betsy, you lose your impact how?
Well, I mean, the only people that would be involved or affected are those that are already involved. I mean, it's just us, and other task force members. I think you want the communities in it. It's my thought. So I was in agreement with Hannah and TAP's assessment of continue the necessary part of the collection of goods, but postpone the actual event. But I mean, I'm game for either.
Yeah.
or any combination, but
Yeah, I was just wondering if, you know, if there would be, if we did, I was having trouble imagining the wall, if we did something with 25. First of all, I think Hannah, the TAP's proposal there is great, and I'm love the sound of that. As far as, you know, the other part, the walk, even doing the walk seemed a little bit unusual if there's only going to be 25 of us, which means maybe we only would have had to park down by the Christmas tree. If you get a little press coverage out of that, I think there's some value in that. And maybe that's a fourth option that doesn't preclude us coming back later, even at a different time of the year, and doing a walk.
Can I share a slightly different perspective?
Please.
It just builds on what you all have shared. I think one of the challenges we've been realizing as we continue our work as a task force is finding ways to message out what we're doing. I think even if in some abbreviated form, there could be a virtual event streamed live on the 10th to convey, you know, the message of the event and the movement of the event and why we're doing it. I think that call to, nonviolence, by both remembering those who have died by placing the ornament, but also calling the community through the pledge to share in that. And I think we could partner with the city, with Tiffany Bradbury, the community engagement manager, to see about live streaming something. And it may be that we, rather than do the movement, we just center it at the tree and take out some of the movement, but just focus on the pledge, on why we're gathered, on hearing a couple stories from people who maybe can be present to talk about how maybe they've lost a loved one this year, how important it is that we come together as community. I would hate to not have that message during this season and just delay it till after the first of the year, because I think we need that kind of positive message. And I think it conveys to the community that our work is multifaceted. And this is also a way, I think, to begin to practice in some form the collaborative public art project, which is about hearing stories and collecting stories. So that's just a thought. I think the more we can create these messages. And the nice thing about video, even though, as Betsy pointed out, you lose some of the community spirit when you've got all these people together, but you can also continue to share a video. And in terms of messaging the work that we're doing as a community and task force, I think there's value in doing something virtual and in real time, and then being able to share that out. So it gives us something to archive, as well as there may be pieces of it that we can pull out for future messaging for the work of the task force and the call to community. So that's just another twist on what you all are reflecting on.
I have to say, if I may, there's a lot there that I was thinking too that I'm in agreement with from a couple of different perspectives. One is there's a historical significance in that this has happened before, and then there's also that feeling right now during COVID that so many things are just either pushed back or stopped or something. And I think there's a message also in saying that we're still here and we're still working on this. So even though we may not be able to go out and do things like we normally do, we're still doing stuff, right? And that we're still committed to this particular cause. We're just doing it in a different way. I think that is helpful, not just for what we're doing here, but I think for people in general. being able to see that work is still happening, even though it's not out on the fronts like, we're typically seeing it. And I agree. I think what I would challenge everybody to think about is, who should those 25 people be? Should it really be us per se, or should we have more focus on, trying to get individuals that do have the experiences to get the story out there? Maybe just being very intentional with who those 25 are, or even if it's 25, maybe it's only 10, but a very powerful 10.
I agree on that particular point, that whatever number should be a meaningful group, not just us because we're on the committee.
Yeah. That's great. Great suggestion. So if we were to imagine hanging on to this one piece as we've been talking down by the Christmas tree, how does that then correlate with what TAP is proposing, with wanting to keep the canned food and hat and glove drive component?
I think they can very easily go together. Kind of in our imagination, the canned food and item distribution would be something that probably on a weekday, some of our youth participants would go to the Hurt Park Community Center, just because they have a space and have offered to let us use that. Go to that center and sort everything out and divide that by 3 and have 3 different packages, I guess, to be picked up by the representatives from the different neighborhoods. And I think that's something that we could capture either just in our marketing department, or have some of the news stations come out and capture that as well. But I don't think that would in any way interfere with the fact that we still, it sounds like, want to do that smaller Christmas tree gathering. I think they would go well hand in hand. Cece, would you agree?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. And then most definitely talk to the 3 community leaders. If one of them would want to come be one of the 25, I know that they are older. So I don't know how reluctant they are to being out, but maybe we can at least get one of them to participate in coming down there and be one of the 25 people.
I think if we do decide to just center around the tree versus walk, there could be a lot more freedom for the neighborhood leaders and anybody else who wants to make it an intentional point to stay maybe spaced out, because we wouldn't have to be moving. So I think centering around the Christmas tree is a good idea.
And the cups are ordered, Tim. They are here. So I do have those.
The cups for
Bridging the community gap. We can still have pass some of those out, to have some of those cups down there for everybody that they passed out last year.
okay.
I saw this the other day. My wife was using last year's cup for some hot teas.
Awesome.
Joe, do you have the ladies from Fed Up? Do you have contact information that you could share? I know that other parts of the task force are working specifically with them, and so they seem like a logical invite to this event.
I've got a conversation with Rita Joyce this afternoon, and I'll ask her about it.
Okay. And I know they were the ones that hung the
Tracy Penn spoke briefly, I think, last year,
and hung the ornament on the tree.
Yeah.
I wonder, do we have the ability to get into contact with someone who's lost a loved one this year and perhaps invite them?
Let me get a list of the of those names and just review that and see who we might reach out to.
And I had been in our previous imagining, I had been working on some clergy connections, and Kevin McNeil had agreed to be part of a clergy event, a component to this. But I was not hearing back from Kathy Cohen. I don't know. I've not seen her at our meetings quite as often lately. I don't know what her availability might be, but that was another connection I was struggling to make.
You might try again. She's just moved into the city, and that between Jewish holy days and moving a household, she's got a few things going on. But
Yeah, it sounds like it. Sounds like it.
But I think either of those or both of those would be great.
What time would the gathering take place at the tree?
I would assume we would keep it at 6 o'clock, but we were assuming an hour for the whole event with everything.
Right. So it would be just 6 p.m. at downtown at the tree.
Yes. Also, talking with Nicole would be another contact. She was, although all of the music she was working on was going to be pre-recorded, so I don't know where that would stand. What do we want to do when we're together, assuming that is the decision we're moving towards? What do you imagine happening if we take, say, now maybe 30 minutes? I'm just to throw out a number. What do you envision happening in the time that we would have people's attention at the tree and that we would be filming? Some of which we've talked about before. I think a lot of what we would just carry over, of course, but.
I mean, definitely hearing from those impacted from gun violence in some sort of way. I think, first you would have to do like a welcome to let people know why we're here and why we're doing what we're doing. The condensed down version of things, kind of an explanation. Obviously the music, recorded music, I should say.
I always lose track of acknowledging that violence comes and gun violence comes in a lot of forms. So remembering those who have lost their lives with suicide, that was a piece that we had wanted to include.
I wasn't able to be there last year, so I'm not sure. My understanding is kind of there was a silence portion to the walk. Is that true? So maybe if we don't do the walk, to have some sort of moment of silence for people to kind of take that pause, since there won't be the walk piece.
That is excellent to remember. And we had, when I filled out the permit, we had included the open flame, which would allow for candlelight. And so, and like most churches, we have an abundance of candles, so we can take care of that. But I think, yeah, those two events would work together. Maybe at the end, we like
Right.
to have this moment of silence after we've heard from people. Yeah, so we had written up from previous meeting that we have an explanation of purpose, and Joe, we had you. I don't know if I had specifically lined that up with you, but we were seeing you in that role, which is sort of this is why we're here. We've confirmed with Mayor Lee that he would be there and would have some comments on this, acknowledging then those who've lost their lives to violence in Roanoke City in 2020. a soloist, prayers for peace. And I think with the 25, this part with the children's activity probably has to get dropped. As much as we were wanting to try to have that.
I think if there was a way to do it safely and there was a youth representative, and maybe Nicole could identify somebody that could be there to even lead the pledge. I don't know who led the pledge last year, whether the mayor did that or someone else, but
the mayor did that, and I need to find that. But I think having youth do it is an excellent way to work it. Hannah or Cecilia, could you talk with Troy and find out where the pledge exists? I remember that, but I don't remember where that came from.
Okay, I can find out.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Would we have people bring canned goods or hats, stockings, things to the event? Even if it's just a small group of us. Is that helpful or not?
I don't think
so?
I don't think it would hurt if they did, but I'm not sure it should be a focus of our like invitation.
You mean we're gonna or asking the the 25 that we decide should come? Is that who you were talking about, Tim, bringing canned food?
Yeah. I mean, if the full event, that this idea of having an on-site component to that makes sense. With our smaller event, but I think there is some symbolic value, I think, in it, at the very least. Okay. The other thing would be, is there a way that we can modify or should we modify the poster quickly, maybe with just a banner that says virtual or something that gets added to it?
Yeah. She's they're actually waiting on me now to let them know exactly what we're doing. So I told them that I will talk to them after we had this meeting. So I think that they should be able to change it. Hannah, how quick do you think they can turn that around for us?
I think if you let them know that it's urgent, that we get it out there, they could make it a top priority.
Okay.
I don't know how hard it would be just to add kind of that modification to it.
Okay.
I mean, everybody's events are virtual this year. I think people will expect
Right.
that. So.
Right.
Okay. So do we feel good? I'm happy to kind of coordinate what we've talked about into an order of service here and send that out as an attachment. Basically, just a slight variation for what we were already planning anyway. Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
For me, it's regarding the flyer. If we're going to put virtual, we have to give them an address, like a certain Facebook page or how we're going to do it virtually. Because if we just put virtual on the flyer, I don't know if that's something that could be determined before the flyer is done. A certain Facebook address or Facebook page they need to go to actually watch it at 6 o'clock. I mean, how is that going to work?
Why don't I check with Tiffany Bradbury about her availability and see if we can confirm using the city's Facebook page for that, for the live stream. That makes sense to me since it's a city council appointed task force. And if she's available, or if someone's available, I'll find out, and I'll try and check on that today.
As far as audio, we have a speaker system here at the church. We just need to plug power. The speaker needs to be powered, but other than that, after that, it's a wireless system. And so that's easily made available. Go ahead, Joe.
The city also has a portable system that does not have to be plugged in. And it has a podium. It's like a case that just opens up and is a podium.
Oh, yeah.
I can check with Tiffany on that as well.
Perfect.
Somebody may also want to check I know Dickens of Christmas is being spread out and they're really reducing the large gathering stuff. But if someone can check the schedule just to make sure there's nothing else scheduled at the tree at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be good for us to let, her name just left me, Tina Workman or Scott Arbogast know that we're planning on doing this and we're following the guidelines, but just so they know for their scheduling that we're going to be there just for a certain amount of time to place something on the tree. I don't know that we did that last year, but I think because things are so different this year, that just might be a nice courtesy.
Okay. Yeah, I can call in here this afternoon. So I'm thinking logistically, so the evening of, well, let's back up to so we have 25 people. If we imagine, I'm just going to say for numbers, 2 or 3 neighborhood leaders. Both Joe and Mayor Lee from City Council. Someone from Fed Up and maybe one other person who was directly impacted by gun violence. Maybe 2 clergy persons, someone from the city who's recording. That's 10 people. A youth representative. That's 10 people, and I haven't counted any of our subcommittee yet. So, so I'm up to 11, and just looking at it, I don't think 25 is going to be a problem. Although there's probably now 15 on our subcommittee. I didn't count the list the other day that I saw.
Tim, I know I will be unable to attend.
Okay. What about, is there anyone else that you imagine needs to be there just because of the role they play in the community or some connection to the task force?
It would be good to invite Shakira as the chair. But, I don't think you have to have to get at 25. If we think 12 to 15 based on who we want to be there. And
Well, it would allow us to be somewhat open. It would give an open invitation, at least to the rest of our task force, or our subcommittee. Okay. And then what about logistically the evening? I mean, if the city is able to set up the speaker for the podium, if someone is from the city is also live streaming, I can bring candles. I can print the programs easily enough. We need to find the pledge and have copies of that, which could be included into the program. What other logistical pieces do we need to be thinking about?
Is there still an ornament that somebody's gonna hang? / where does that come from?
Right, that's a great question.
that might also be a Troy question. If I remember right, last year it was a large, like clear plastic, nice, but it was clear, and then there was something inside of it, and I can't remember what was inside of it, whether it was like a paper candle or what exactly. But my hunch is that Troy would know
Okay.
what that was and where it came from.
Okay.
We could also, it would be very easy to make out of wood a dove representing peace or some such symbol, and maybe somebody write on it, prayers for peace, gun violence task force, or something like that. Some such thing I think would be easy to do.
So not necessarily a to-do, more of a question, but is this something that the media would be informed of and invited to?
Mm-hmm. Is that a Tiffany Bradbury connection, or who would extend the invitation to the media?
I could ask Melinda Mayo about creating a press release for it. That would probably be the easiest thing to do.
Okay, great.
Do those people have to count in the 25 if they do show up to film, or are they exceptions to the rule?
I think if they're observing from a distance, they wouldn't be part of the 25. But what we could do, what we typically do when we're holding our meetings online, is that we ask the media to RSVP if they're going to be there, so we have a pretty good idea of who's going to show up. This is a little different because it's outdoor and open. But I could ask Tiffany and Melinda what their thoughts are on that, kind of the best way to handle it.
Okay.
How do we handle if there are people that just happen to be downtown that start gathering with us? I mean, how would we handle that?
I don't think we have any control over it. The only thing we have control over is how many are in our event, and making sure that we are spread out. And if that's why I was curious about what else might be going on with Dickens that night, because I think they're really trying to support local businesses, but they're also trying to reduce crowd sizes and just huddled together, which is why they're not doing a Christmas tree lighting, a big event where everybody's there. It's going to be virtual. So, but then again, you can't control how many people show up, other than asking people to spread out and have their masks on. So Betsy, you've nailed it. It's a wild card. But I think if we do our part in just making sure that we've got a limited number, because we're the ones who've requested a permit to have an event. And as long as we're honoring that and following that, then I think we've done our due diligence. And if we can communicate with Downtown Roanoke Inc. and also PD, just let them know. Because I'm sure they'll be around in,
Yeah.
in the area during these events. So
Well, I know Josh Johnson is going off our subcommittee, but he's being replaced by someone. So, and in fact, he is listed as the safety officer for our event on the permit. So, okay. Well, I know everybody's busy, and I don't want to rush us to two things, but I'd also like if we can kind of wrap this up so that we can not have to have another Zoom meeting. I don't know how people's work schedules are, but I know these middle of the day meetings are very challenging for folks. But I don't want to not do our due diligence and planning either. So tell me how you're feeling and what else you think we need to be talking about. I know Joe had an item on our art project we want to come to here in a minute, but what else do you feel we need to accomplish today to feel good about where we are and what's going to happen?
I have I guess another question as far as how we're going to work this list down, and do you need help with that, or do we feel pretty good about who we're talking about right now? And I asked for two reasons. One, as far as myself goes, I mean, I'm happy to be there and support the cause. You know, I had intended on being there in the first place, but if my space is taking away from someone that is more impactful to the message, then I'm okay with that as well. So it's like, as we're working through this, you know, I guess the question is, do we already know, or do we need to help you work through that list of who, and at what point will we know if we need or should come or not come?
Yeah.
And how are we informing those that we're inviting? Because that should probably happen pretty soon.
Yes. So again, in my own list, I have Mayor Lee, Vice Mayor Cobb, Shakira Williams. So there would be 3. Just to allow some flex into our count, 2 or 3 neighborhood community leaders that TAP would identify. But I know, Cecilia, you only mentioned 1. So we're just being erring on the side of caution here. So you're not, Cecilia, you're not able to assume Hannah from TAP we would count. So that's 1 through 5, 7. Someone from Fed Up, 8. Maybe someone else who had lost a loved one specifically this year, 9. We had included a clergy component, which we maybe 10 and 11, 2 more people there. A youth leader would be a 12th person, which I assume would also then involve Nicole Ross, so that's 13. Counting someone from the city doing our live streaming is the 14th person. And so that's the end of the sort of the invite list. And so then it would, unless there were others, it would just be filling out the next spots from our subcommittee.
Do we say this? Do we still need the safety officer? Is that someone that we definitely need to have there that day?
Yes, thank you. So there's 15.
And Tim, there were several of us that had to be on that application as well. I know you put me down for something.
It was crowd control or something, I'm sure that.
But, you know, I'm really good at that. So, but I mean, do we need to count? You know, because I'm like with Christy. I planned on coming, but I'm happy not to. If
I think some of what I will ask Dwayne Nelms when I call him back. I think some of these extra positions was because we were walking. Okay. And I think if we have a stationary event, some of that goes away. Like we needed someone that if a child got separated from a parent, we needed somebody at a site that, you know, Betsy, I can't remember what, but Betsy, you would be the person, you know, go see Betsy if you were lost. or if you're missing someone. I think a lot, that probably goes away with the stationary event,
Okay,
so. Yeah, I had never filled out a permit like that before, so it's very interesting. Obviously, you know, there's some provision for if you need to evacuate, you know, if there would be an earthquake, you know, whatever. Most of which it was hard to imagine applying to being out to the bar event, but it's kind of a one size fits all application form. So. But it does make you think.
Would we have either Annette, Lewis, or Joe there to speak as well? Would we include them?
Well, we already have Joe scheduled.
Okay.
Well, I'm assuming, I don't want to assume for you, so.
No, it's a different Joe.
Oh, sorry.
Joe,
Joe Nelson,
Yeah,
or Annette Lewis.
Joe Nelson, she's the
I'm sorry.
director of This Valley Works.
I think it's a good idea.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. Is Mrs. Lewis still on the school board as well? She go off, okay. Okay, Betsy, if it's helpful, do you need me to email you the list of potential invites to include in the notes? Would that be helpful?
that's fine.
Okay, I know the last time I went down through the list, I was thinking more than I was saying, so
No, that's fine. If you want to send that to me as well as the agenda, and we can send it all out in one email, so we're not tracking down multiple.
I will do that this afternoon. I will do that first thing when we get off, and that way it'll be well, I need to also call some folks, but I will get that to you by the end of the day.
Okay, that's good.
Anything else? I don't want to hold you. I know you're very busy. And Hannah's cat, if I were at home, you'd have seen my cat go by as well.
She has to get her moment of spotlight.
That's right. Okay, Joe, you had an update about our art project.
So a citizen reached out to me after I presented the summary of our work to City Council a week ago Monday. And she was looking for projects that she could help support financially. And she was very excited to hear about the public art project that you all are working on. And I believe she would probably be willing to underwrite the cost for that.
Oh.
So if you, I know that you gave an estimate of 2,000. I think that's still in the range of what she's interested in doing, but that, as we talked through options, that was like her number one thing
Wow.
she wanted to do. So if you all could do some work to just fine tune that. And then what I will do is find out from city staff where those funds should be directed, whether it makes sense to direct them to the Roanoke Arts Commission and then just have them be the go-through. Although I think that funding comes to the city as well. So I'll check with the city manager on that piece of it. But I wanted to let you know that she was really excited about that project. And she's someone in our community who, she's Caucasian. But she's been very active, you know, in her earlier years in civil rights work. And she wanted to support causes that would uplift our community as a whole. And also she was looking for projects that are particularly African-American focused. So I wanted to share that with you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. I assume that this is an anonymous donation.
I don't know if she'll make it anonymous or not.
Okay, and the only reason I was asking if at some point a direct contact with this person, I'd be happy to, any anonymous, I'm sure would be happy reach out directly and sort of share the vision a little more.
Yeah.
If that would-
Yeah, no, I think that'd be appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, how exciting.
It is great. Thank you, Joe.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. Well, again, thank you. A couple of us have some tasks here. We'll follow up and have some minutes that we'll look for in the next couple of days. And I feel good about this. So this feels like this morning here at the church, we were scaling back our already minimal Christmas Eve service plans. So, which just never is getting really old.
But I feel good too. I think this is a good
Yeah,
blend.
I think we've ended it at a good space and it is relevant with the restrictions that we have. So thank you all again. Have a good Thanksgiving, whatever Thanksgiving's going to look like this year for you. I do hope you're able to connect with family and friends in some meaningful way.
Thank you all.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank